Hello, and welcome to the Let Them Live podcast. I'm Emily Burning, your host, and also the president and co-founder of Let Them Live. We bring you interviews with unsung heroes and inspiring individuals who are in the fight to save babies, mothers, and fathers from abortion. Our goal is to amplify their voices and bring their stories to the forefront, shedding light on the incredible work they do and the lives they touch. This is more than just a podcast. It's a platform that allows everyone to share their pro-life stories and inspire us to passionately continue advocating for life. Welcome back, everyone, to the Let Them Live podcast. I'm Emily Burning. I am the co-founder and president of Let Them Live. Today, we have an amazing guest, and I'm so excited. I got the opportunity to talk to her a few weeks ago when I was making my donor calls. So Alicia is a donor to Let Them Live, and she and I talked for a long time, and she just has such an amazing story. And I was like, you have got to be on my podcast. I am so excited to have you on, Alicia. Thank you so much for taking the time to tell your story today.
Thank you, Emily. I'm so excited to be here. What a great opportunity. It was such a God thing when you reached out a couple weeks ago and we were able to connect and really spend some time together on the phone. So I'm so grateful you asked me to be here, and I'm excited to share and talk a little bit more about what we're doing.
Totally. Yeah. So I want you to just start off with your pro-life story. You have such an amazing one. So how did it come to be for you that you got into this movement?
Yeah. My pro-life story starts, dates back to as long as I can remember. I really don't have a specific turning point in my life where I was like, oh my gosh, this revelation of the sanctity of life and pro-life and what that means. I just really think that I'm born and raised a Christian. So I grew up in a Christian home, actually Catholic. And that really just was something that the Lord and the Holy Spirit laid on my heart at a very early age. It's a piece of that I just always really hung on to. So throughout my life and throughout my journey, the pro-life movement has always been something I've been very passionate about. It's always something that I've never really wavered on, and it's really spoken strongly to me. Therefore, I have felt the need and the desire to speak out and share and talk about the pro-life movement and to talk about the importance and the importance of life and every life, and that it's created, God created, and every life is so important. For as long as I can remember, I've been pro-life. I, in my faith, have a very interesting journey over the years. Born and raised Catholic, I strayed pretty drastically from my faith for about 10 years. Just really fell into a secular pattern, stepped away from going to church, stepped away from my connection to the Lord. And that was a season where it was very difficult for me. And even in that season, one thing that really stayed true to me in my heart was that I just really believed that every life, whether preborn or born, is a life worthy to be lived, especially that of an innocent preborn baby. This is a cause, and this is something that's really been near and dear to my heart for many years, which actually I had the opportunity, because God has a sense of humor, to really live out my own testimony in that, and to be able to stand back and say, goodness, this is something that I've always really believed in. And now here I am being tested in that. A couple of years ago, in January of 22, I single and found out that I was pregnant. And in that, we can go into this in a little, but specific to pro-life, amongst all the emotions and the feelings associated to that, one thing that just I really ever questioned was, should I keep or should I get rid of my baby or abort my baby? So the Lord knew that giving that child to me is his way of saying, I know her heart. I know how she feels about this pro-life movement. Daughter, come home to me. Here's a baby. I'm bringing you back to me in your faith by giving you this child. And so, long story short, I've always been very passionate about pro-life. I think that I'm really glad to see, especially in the last few years with Roe v. Wade overturn, the conversation has become a lot more prevalent. And for many years, there wasn't a huge conversation around abortion and pro-life. And I think that many people for a long time went about their understanding of abortion in a very surface level way. I just think this is, though it's uncomfortable, and there's been a lot of controversy and struggle in the last few years, especially with the Roe v. Wade overturn, I think this is a really great opportunity to bring this conversation back up to light. So I'm just really eager to in some way, let the Lord use me as a vessel to be a part of this. Maybe my story is how he's going to do that, but it's a very important conversation. And organizations like Let Them Live are doing the work that I'm just so impressed and so passionate about that needs to be done. So that's my approach.
That's amazing. I was going to ask you, when you found out you were pregnant and just going through that, what were some of the challenges that you faced? Some of the biggest things that were just, not that ever made you question you didn't want to choose life, but just like put you in the position of being like, gosh, this is going to be really tough. And maybe even how you overcame that, because you're a perfect example of someone that we're trying to show women that you can have a life and have your baby. And so maybe talk to that as well.
Absolutely. To take myself back to those moments when I found out I was pregnant and in that season of life, I was in a very difficult season of life. Very lost, really seeking connection, and was looking in secular places, right? I had totally stepped away from my faith and had just felt like I really lost direction in that. So when I found out I was pregnant, it was just an overwhelming sense of fear. And I use the word terror a lot when I talk to mentors and counselors and family now about it. It was something I was terrified. It's a total shock to be living a certain lifestyle and to just out of nowhere, you don't have a week to prepare for this news. It's just an instantaneous shock to the system when that positive test comes back. And what's really interesting is before I took the test, I'm like, I'm going to take a test. I'm going to check this one off the list as to why I'm late. And I didn't think even in my gut, I'm like, there's no way this test is going to be positive. So when it came back positive, it was just a total shock to the system. And as a woman bearing the child, you don't have weeks and months to prepare for this news. It happens instantaneously. It's overwhelming. So you're filled with all sorts of emotions. And in my case, I was fearful. I was worried. I was full of terror. I had no idea. I was single. I did not know where to go, where to turn. I just felt hopeless. And so those are some really big, really powerful emotions to feel. And I never imagined how I would feel the first time I saw a positive pregnancy test. I had hoped to get married and to have a husband and to be excited about seeing that positive test for the first time. Having children was something that I expected and hoped for in the future, not in this way. So just the overwhelming feelings to just get, crushed by. I just remember I was sitting on my friend's couch. I was at her house when I took the test and I just sobbed. I had no words. I just cried and they just held me. They held me, her and her husband, for a few hours. And I finally gathered the courage to head home. And from that point forward, it was a battle. It was a one foot in front of the other type of situation. It's just to face something that drastic in that quick of a moment is so overwhelming. It's not reasonable to expect a human to be like, all right, I've got it all together. We're
no worries.
Right. Come on. It's massive. That's a huge thing. And then beyond just the realization of it, your body hormonally, I was 5 weeks pregnant when I found out. And so you're going through just drastic biological hormonal changes. And the whole thing is just a crushing weight. In those moments, it's very hard for me to relate to people who were excited about seeing their pregnancy tests for the first time. I was mortified, terrified, unsure of where to go, who to tell, what way to turn. I'm single. I was really not well off financially. I was really struggling to make ends meet. All those things just start coming in. Oh my gosh, how do I handle this with the father? How do I handle this in the relationship that I'm not in? How do I provide? You just start to get crushed by all these what ifs and hows. And so to go from that to I had nowhere else to turn but to the Lord. It was one of those moments where God said, okay, you're at rock bottom. And by the way, that didn't get any better in the first few weeks or months after I found out. In fact, it only amplified it. Things started to become real, right? So after that initial shock, it starts to settle in and you essentially go through the stages of grieving and just trying to figure out what the heck do I do? I'm pregnant. I have a child on the way. I feel like crap because I'm having all the first trimester morning sickness symptoms and everything to go with it. And then just tack on to that the emotional trauma of what's happening. It's really, I had nowhere to go but to turn to the Lord and say, I surrender. I have no idea what to do. You have all of me, help me. I just remember being on the floor of my bedroom that night, just sobbing myself to sleep. What do I do? Where do I
And sometimes
turn?
that's all that you can do when you feel like you've just hit rock bottom and you can't even get like a prayer out, right? You're just like, I can't do this on my own. That's your prayer, is like crying, is sobbing and saying, I literally can't do this. And you did. You did. And you can understand what the moms go through that have come to Let Them Live. And that's such a unique perspective, Alicia, because I can't understand that. I haven't been in that position, but you can understand seeing those two lines and just being like, what am I going to do? And having your dreams crushed in a way, because I'm sure we all imagine you get married and get those lines and it's exciting and you get to surprise your husband or whatever, but that was a totally different experience for you. So what was like, at what point did you end up, things started to look up for you, turn around a little bit, or like actually feeling, okay, I got this?
That's a good question. And I really struggled throughout the duration of my pregnancy. I was living in Texas at the time I found out I was pregnant and had no family, really no community in Texas that I could lean on for support. So I chose to uproot my life and move back to Arizona, which is where I'm at now. That's where most of my family is, and a fair amount of the community that I had grown up with is out here. A couple months into the pregnancy, I chose to move back to Arizona to be closer to family. I just knew that there was absolutely no way I could get through this without any sort of support system. And I'm very blessed and very fortunate that I have a very supportive family and community out here. So they welcomed me home with open arms, which I still can get emotional about, just knowing how fortunate I am to have had that and still have that. So that's something that I really leaned into. And though I had that support, it didn't in the moment make things easier per se. I really struggled while I was pregnant. And something that I think is really important to talk about when it comes to unexpected pregnancies and even undesirable pregnancies is that while I was pregnant with my son, throughout the entire 40 weeks, I could not emotionally connect to him. I was so fearful that I would have him and reject him and be just, I didn't know what to expect. And because of how things happened and because of what I was going through and how it just completely disrupted my life, I didn't know how I would react. And I didn't know if there would be a rejection there. I didn't know if there would be a lack of connection. I was really worried and really fearful about what that was going to look like. So while I was pregnant, I had no emotional connection to the baby inside of me. And so that was really difficult. And that's where I can really understand where women who are pregnant out of undesirable circumstances may think I have no other option and I can abort this baby. And I want to be clear, that's not a stance that I stand by, but I can understand that disconnection. I think it's really easy to stand on the other side of this and say, how on earth could you ever consider doing that? I was pregnant with my baby, and the only reason that I stood so true to this baby deserves life is I was born on a faith. Again, the Lord laid it on my heart, a pro-life stance. That was my total trust and surrender to his plan was the only reason that baby and I made it through 40 weeks together. And I don't think it's just a faith religious thing, the sanctity of life, the life in the womb. It goes to science. That's a whole nother conversation that I could go on.
Totally. We could talk about that, but you touched on such a good point and I want you to talk more to this idea that there's a lot of people that say there is no excuse for abortion. And of course, like abortion's wrong. And we agree that, but when we look into the reasons why women are getting abortions, that gives us insight into their mindset and the shoes they're walking in and how we can make that burden a little bit lighter for them. It doesn't mean that we're saying, oh, she had an abortion and it was justified because of her financial stuff. That's not at all. It's she had an abortion. Why? It was because of finances. Could something have been done? So talk more on that. What would you say to people who, mostly pro-life people, that have the mindset of, women are terrible for even considering abortion and needing money to support them. They're the people that do not donate to Let Them Live. They're the people that go on social media and they say she should have kept her legs closed, all of that.
Yeah. Goodness, that's a loaded question. But I guess we live in a fallen world. We're fallen people. Things happen in life, right? But we're talking about the generalization of a woman choosing to climb into bed with someone. And yeah, I agree. We have a choice in this whole matter, and that's the choice, right? Now, of course, there's the exceptions when it comes to assault and other terrible situations. But when just generalizing to the general fact of, I referenced myself as being reckless. That's how, through my counseling and through my conversations with family members and mentors, I talked about myself being reckless with my behavior. But that's a huge gap today, is that we as adults choose to do certain things. We need to understand that actions do have consequences and that we need to take responsibility for that. I chose to do something knowing that this could possibly be the outcome. I'm responsible for that, not the baby, not my son. And so that's something, first of all, that we as the women, the mother, we need to take responsibility for that. Now, of course, that's the general sense. There are the exceptions. And I still don't think that does not justify devalue life in the womb, how the baby is conceived. And that's a very difficult, controversial topic, right? But I do think at the end of the day, from that side of things, like, we women need to take responsibility for our actions. Now, to talk about those who are standing on the sidelines judging or casting judgment or sitting behind their keyboards and spewing out all these things, you need to understand that we do live in a fallen world. And that's why Jesus died on the cross for us. God wouldn't have had to send his only son to die on the cross for us if we weren't fallen, if we weren't inherently sinful. But we are. And you know what? Not everyone's perfect. We make mistakes. Things happen. Can we show some sympathy and some empathy for these people? Yes. Absolutely. We need to. And women who find themselves in this situation where they're unexpectedly pregnant, the last thing they need is criticism. They need support. 100%. They need love. They need kindness. They need to know there's people behind them, because now it's not just about them. It's about their baby too. So I encourage people who maybe have not been in a situation or know someone in a situation, but instead have a hard time understanding that, is I challenge them to go beyond their understanding. You don't have to understand where they're coming from or why they did what they did to show them the love and support that they need. But rather, we should look forward to, hey, here's what she needs. She needs a team behind her. She needs people to love her. She needs people to encourage her that there is hope for you and your child. And so that would be my encouragement, is that people just, you don't have to understand or know. Of course, I, in that situation, have an advantage of understanding exactly what if we're going to live a life where we live like Jesus did. He didn't understand tax collectors, why they chose to do what they do, but he chose to sit with them and love them and welcome them into his circles. The understanding piece, it's just, we need to go beyond that. It's more than just, they should have made that decision. Come on, we should have made a lot of decisions differently in life.
And it's already done. And that's the thing I say, is like, we always have the opportunity to learn moving forward, but it's entirely unhelpful when someone says, she should have kept her legs closed. Yeah, okay, maybe, but we're here, right? We're here. She's pregnant. The baby exists. So what are we going to do now? And the reality of our world is that we do live in a world where there are needs and there's fears and there's concerns. And so as Christians, we step up to the plate. We say, hey, my brother, sister, my neighbor, whoever it is needs. And it's a great opportunity as well to be able to help them in other ways. So like the moms we absolutely help them financially, but we're helping them to become better people. We're also educating them. We had a mom one time. I think my jaw dropped in just, I had no idea that anyone could think this, but she had gotten pregnant again. And she had told me, I guess I just didn't realize that, having sex, this would happen. Like, she just literally did not put two and two together. And while that seems like an absolutely basic thing to almost everybody, you're also, she comes from a family and an upbringing that didn't talk about sex, that didn't educate on anything other than just go off and do whatever you want. And that's that. And so we have a unique opportunity when we reach these moms to help them and teach them and show them and encourage them. And we can't do that if we turn them off by just immediately going after them. So I think that's really good. Compassion, understanding, and you did touch a little bit on let them live at the beginning. So I want to loop back around and just ask you about your connection with Let Them Live. What about our mission has just resonated with you, and what you would encourage people to do or tell people who aren't already supporting us?
Absolutely. And so to circle back to a point you made earlier that we were talking about, and this will tie into what I have resonated with in Let Them Live, is I talked about how during my pregnancy, things didn't necessarily get any easier. And for me, it was when I had my baby. It was a complete Ezekiel 36:26. The Lord says, I change your heart of stone and replace it with a heart of flesh. And that is something that was me in that moment. The moment that I had that baby, the Lord changed my heart of stone to a heart of flesh. And that is when it changed for me. And that is when I connected with that child and realized, like, oh my gosh, this baby was with me the entire time. Like, this, God gave me this child, me, of all the women everywhere, he chose me to be this baby's mother. God is for us, who can be against us? That is the highest calling, that he chose me to be this child's mother. And it was in that moment that I gave birth to him, it was such a Holy Spirit thing. My heart just completely melted and changed. And so it was in that moment that I realized, like, I was so grateful and so thankful that I had that baby, and that he and I now get to live this life together. Though things are still very unclear, we're able to move forward, that he has a life to live. God made him on purpose for a purpose. He has a plan for me, and he has a plan for that baby. And I just want to encourage women who are maybe pregnant in an uncertain circumstance, who are 6-7 months in, or maybe just in the beginning, and they're looking at that 9 months, like, how am I supposed to do this? That doesn't mean it may get easier while you're pregnant. For me, it got harder. It got harder until the moment I had that baby. And even then, my problems didn't just go away, right? I'm still a single mom. I still have a financial issue. I'm still working multiple jobs to this day. My baby's a year old and we're just getting started, right? So it doesn't mean things will get easier, but it does give it does give meaning and purpose to God's calling for us as mothers. I say that because I wanted to tie that point home, that though it might not get easier while you're pregnant, and you know what? Maybe it won't even get easier when you have the baby. I don't know your story. Only God knows your story. But that total trust and surrender of just stick with it. One foot in front of the other. Don't go months ahead. Don't go a year ahead, because like me, that's when the what ifs creeped in. That's like the big picture is scary, right? We're finite human beings. We're not built to see the big picture. That's God's thing. He just says, wake up every day. Trust me, I got you today. So that's my encouragement to women in this situation is, hey, just wake up, one foot in front of the other. Just go today, go to bed, rest your head. Well done, good and faithful servant on today. No, go to tomorrow. What I love about Let Them Live for that is this organization, you're giving women an opportunity to take those steps to meet that next day. You're giving them hope. You're giving them the help that we need. The pro-life movement is an amazing thing. And you guys are filling in a solution. You're a solution to a problem in the pro-life movement, which I think can be missing in some areas when it comes to some pro-life activities and movement. And Let Them Live is just, hey, we're here to help. We have financial backing. We have support. We have counselors. We're here to help you. We're here to walk this through you, because I'm very fortunate that I had a supportive family and community. Not all women have that. And so that's what really resonated with me with Let Them Live is, okay, I have what some women don't have. And though I can relate to them, I am very blessed in the fact that I have support from my family, that they are able to help me with my baby while I work 3 jobs every week, things like that. Because I have that, I want to help others who don't. And I think Let Them Live is that supportive family. Though you're not blood, you're their family. You're supporting them. You're giving them a hand to hold on to. You're helping them put food on the table. And these are things that are really important. If we're going to encourage these women to keep their babies and bring them into the world and give them life and steward them, then they need love. They need community. And it doesn't need to be immediate family. And that's what God calls us to do. And I just am so impressed with what you guys are doing, and so impressed with your story, Emily. about you and Nathan, how you gave up so much in the beginning to help that one mom. And that's what started Let Them Live. That's just such a beautiful story and a beautiful calling. And so many women can benefit from the help that you're providing. And the great thing is too, you touched on this earlier, is you're not just throwing some money at them and saying good luck. No, you're stewarding them. You're teaching them. So we're not making the same mistake multiple times. And we're human. We might still do that, but you're giving them the opportunity to come to their faith, come to understanding what it means to be a really great present mother. And so that's what I love, is not only are you giving them support, but you're also helping these women, educating them, helping them understand how to make their life different from here on forward, because there is hope. You can still work and have babies. You can still have a life and have babies. You can still be Superwoman and have babies. And guess what? Being a mother is the most rewarding calling, I think. And that's how it's been for me, that my heart has changed so much through this process. To look at where I was the 10 years prior to me getting pregnant, I was all about it, right? I want a huge career. I don't want anyone to get in the way of that, on my time, on my watch. And the Lord has just completely changed my heart. And that's what happens when you connect with your faith, is He changes what's inside of you. So those things that you desire before you really truly know an intimate relationship with Jesus, He changes your heart according to His plan. So that's what I love about Let Them Live, is you guys are stewarding these women, you're discipling these women, you're giving them support where they need it. We all need help. Goodness, we all need help. So if it's financial, that's amazing. And if it's counseling, that's amazing. And if it's, I know you guys do baby registries. That is so cool. That gives those women an opportunity to take a deep breath and say, okay, I can make it till tomorrow. I can make it till tomorrow. And the next thing, with that love and support, they gain a little more confidence and a little more momentum, and they're supporting themselves and their families, or they have now a new loving relationship and a husband who's supporting them, whatever the situation is. You're giving them a runway to get where they want to go, to help live out God's plan for them. That's what I love about Let Them Live.
Oh, thank you. That's amazing. I love hearing all that. And so many people have different reasons why they love Let Them Live. I've got a million, of course, but I love hearing that. And it just reminds me that we are 100% donor funded. And so the fact that we're able to do that, we have the ability to help moms in that way, is because we have people donating. And you touched on, you're working 3 jobs and you go, girl. Dang, that's crazy and insane and amazing. And it just shows that you can. Yet you've had like financial struggles, yet you've still given financially to Let Them Live. And I think that's a beautiful sacrifice. I think sometimes it's easy to take giving out of our budget when things are tight, but we're called to give. That's the first thing that we're supposed to do. And then you pay the mortgage and then you figure it out. So what would you say to someone who isn't in the best financial situation, but they're really passionate about Let Them Live and they want to donate, but they're not really sure if they can? What would you say, or what advice would you give to someone who is on the edge of donating to Let Them Live, and maybe they want to, but they're just not in the place to do so?
That's a really good question. For me, it was knowing how I could impact the women in need and their families. That to me carried more weight than the concern about, I found areas in my budget that I could say, okay, you know what, I can cut this in order to make some room for Let Them Live. Giving to organizations that I believe in and in their cause is something that is really important to me. I'm not rolling in it, so I don't have a lot of money to give away, though I think any contribution that you can make from a monthly perspective or whatever cadence works for you, that this is changing lives. That's what I really like about Let Them Live, is this, where the money's going. It's so cool how you'll text us updates about the mamas that we donate to, and good and bad. You keep us in the loop about what's going on with them. And it's just really nice to hear that, where it's like, it's exciting to know where are your donations going and that it's directly impacting this mom and her children. And I love that when babies are born, you guys are updating on that. So there's just a lot of immediate, really personalized pieces of Let Them Live that makes it feel like, okay, I feel really good about knowing where my money's going. I know it's really directly helping this individual and her family. And not that there's anything wrong with giving to an organization just in a general way and they're using it for good. But I really like that I know exactly where it's going and to who and how it's helping them. And so I just think that's really encouraging. But I encourage people, if your finances are tight, I understand that. And I have found a lot more, there's just been a lot of peace and a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Purpose in knowing that, okay, once a month I find from Let Them Live, you guys post out of certain mamas that are in need. And once a month I say, okay, I pray about it. And I'm like, this gal's really coming to my heart. I'm going to give to her this month. And so that's just something that's become part of my monthly cadence. And so I encourage people who are on the fence just to know that your money is going to these women and going to their babies and their families. It's giving them hope. It's giving them purpose. And it's giving them a sense of, okay, I can do this. They need it. They need our support. And I know that we all need our money and we have bills to pay and things are expensive. I get it. But if there's any wiggle room that you can maybe sacrifice if you like to eat out a lot, maybe you sacrifice you don't go eat out that weekend or whatever it might be, right? Or you can rearrange that budget. It's a worthy cause for women who really need the support and the love, and their babies do too.
100%. I wasn't actually going to originally share this, but because I know we're running over, but I could talk to you forever. But there was 2 examples that we had a donor and she was so amazing. She would donate like 10 times a day. Okay. And I was like, what the heck is this? So I pulled it up and I talked to her and she would just donate throughout the day when something came up and she was like, oh, I want to start. Nope, I'm going to get a Starbucks. I'm going to donate what it would have costed to Let Them Live. So I'm going to donate $8 to Let Them Live. Or she's, oh, I'm going to get an extra scoop of ice cream. No, I'm not going to get that. It was $1 more. I'm donating $1. It's a way to consciously do it, or you can do your budget. But this one really just hit me. And this actually came from a donor like earlier this month. And it came with, I'll tell you guys. So recently I found your organization. Second, I also am pro-life. I can't afford to join monthly, but here's a little to help. I'll try to send more soon. Thank you for helping saving lives. And then he signed his name. And there was $2 in there. And I started crying because it's not about the amount, right? It talks about that in the Bible, right? There's people giving tons of money, and then there was that widow and she only had 2 little like coppers or whatever, but she gave everything she had. So this $2 means more to me than anything. This is just amazing. He gave what he had.
That's an amazing story.
All he gave, that to me was just really huge. So even if it's just a couple bucks, goes to help moms and babies.
Yes,
and that's really special to me. But
that's the big thing is that donation, it truly does come down to that can make a difference between saving a life and not. That's a huge deal. So I think that's a really cool example, really cool story. Good for that guy.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. Thank you so much, Alicia, thank you so much for being on. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Thank you for just so much about your experience and the love and the compassion that we need to have. And thank you for donating and finding it in your budget. And thank you for just being part of this. And I'm very grateful that you were on. So thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you, Emily. I love what you guys are doing. I love your heart and I love the team that you guys have put together. It's just, you are doing the Lord's work. So thank you. And I tell everybody about Let Them Live. I'm like, you guys need to know about this group, donate, be a part of it in some way. I love your mission. I love what you're doing. There are so many mamas and babies out there who are in need of some help like this. And I'm just so grateful that you guys are willing to fight the good fight. And it's not an easy fight too. We live in a fallen secular world who wants to take this down and they want to fight against the pro-life movement. So kudos to you. I know I pray the armor of God over you guys daily. And I hope that continue doing.
You guys for listening in and watching or whatever you're doing with this podcast. If you are interested in learning more or you want to be interviewed, you can shoot me an email or you can go to letthemlive.org to donate to see our most recent fundraisers and support our moms. Thank you again, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of the Let Them Live podcast. I would like to give a special shout out to Patrick at Moon Shadow Studios, who does an amazing job of editing our podcast. If you're ever in the need for a podcast editor, he is definitely the one to go to. Let Them Live is a Christian nonprofit dedicated to supporting women who are considering abortion primarily due to financial burden. 73% of women have abortions because of financial struggles, and we're here to help bridge that gap. Our goal is to provide the emotional and financial support these women need to feel empowered to choose life. If our cause resonates with you and you're interested in learning more, getting involved, or making a donation, please visit our website at www.letthemlive.org. One amazing way to contribute is by joining our Heartbeat Club, where you can become a monthly donor, and your ongoing support will ensure that we can continue helping women every single month. You can also follow us on social media to stay up to date with all the amazing stories and ways that you can be part of our mission. You can also find me on Instagram at Emily Burning. Thank you again for listening, and please join us for more upcoming inspiring stories and conversations.